Now we are going to discuss the employer responsibilities. As per the Article 16 of C155 of ILO Convention, they have mentioned the employer responsibility. The first responsibility is there, employer shall be required to ensure that so far as reasonable practicable, the workplaces, machinery, equipment and processes under their control are safe and without risk to health. It is stating that the employer shall be required to ensure means he will make 100% ensure, he will make compliance 100% so far as reasonable practicable. Suppose any machine is there and machine is producing the heat, so worker cannot say no, I don't want to work in this hot environment. He has to provide some ventilation, cooling facilities for the worker, or the machine may be kept and the proper ventilation may be provided by any other means. Reasonable, practicable. Yes. The workplaces where the workers are working, the workplace, machinery, any type of machine they are using, or equipment, or any process are they are doing it into the organization which are under their control. Under their control means they are under the control of the employer, are safe. All the machinery, workplace, equipment, process are safe and without risk to health to workers. Without risk to health to the workers. So this is the main prime responsibilities of the employers. Now we come to the second responsibilities of the employer. Employer shall be required to ensure that so far as reasonable practicable, the chemical, physical and biological substances and agents under their control are without risk to health when the appropriate measures of protections are taken. They are stating in this the if at the site or at the organization any chemical using any dangerous chemical or any type of chemical using physical and biological substances using and any agents also using of that agents which also may create the chemical hazard, physical hazard and biological hazards under their control. Again, the control of the employer are without risk to health. Should be without risk to health to the worker when the appropriate measures of protection are taken. Appropriate measures of protection, we can understand that if we are using the any chemical, we are using any HCl like hydrochloride, chloric acid, we are using it. So it should be in the closed container. It should be under the authorized entry only. Which should be with the lock under the lock and key chain arrangement should be. This should not be in the open atmosphere. If you are using any gas cylinder like LPG gas cylinder for the for the gas welding, so that is a physical item may be there. That employer is doing that activity, we have to do it. So employer has to provide the appropriate measures of protection are taken. The appropriate measures to be provided, all the safety arrangement to be done by the employer and to control the risk. And he has to control the risk. If elimination not possible, he has to control the risk. Third main responsibility, employers shall be required to provide wherever necessary adequate protective clothing and protective equipment to prevent so far as is reasonable practicable risk of accident or of adverse effect on health. It is stating that employer has to provide the adequate PPE. PPE, personal protective equipment. Here they are mentioning protective clothing and protective equipment. Protective clothing means overall, gloves, safety shoes. They are the clothing, the part of the clothing. And the protective equipment like SCABA, self-contained breathing apparatus, like this equipment to be provided to prevent the risk of accident. So risk of accident should be stopped with that PPEs. That level of PPE to be provided. All the adverse effect, all this should not, and the PPE should be of that quality, of that level, that if they are working at workplace, the adverse effect should not come due to that workplace, due to dealing with chemical, like that PPE to be provided. It means they want to say that PPE to be provided of the good quality, which is reasonable, practicable. So of the workplace, any effect will not come on the worker. These are the three main employer responsibilities given in Article 16 of C155 of ILO. In additional, the syllabus requirement is also there. As per the syllabus requirement, Article 10 of R164 of ILO. R164 is the number of the recommendation number R164. In that, it is also mentioned obligation placed upon employer. It is basically the same thing, but they have mentioned the obligation placed upon the employer. Earlier, was the C155 was the convention, means they have to make ensure. Obligation means they are the additionally they have applied to the employer. What is the first? To provide and maintain workplace machinery and equipment and use work methods which are as safe and without risk to health as is reasonable practice. In this obligation also, it is clearly mentioned, it was mentioned in C155 also, to provide and maintain workplaces. They have to provide the safe workplace and to maintain the workplace also. To provide machinery and equipment and use work method. Yes, safe plant and machinery to be provided and use work method means safe system of work to be provided. Which are safe means safe place of work, safe plant and machinery, safe system of work to be provided and without risk to health. They are not going to give any risk to the health of the workers and they have to control as is reasonable practicable. The second point, to give necessary instruction and training taking account of the functions and capacities of different categories of the worker. The employer has to give necessary instruction and training to be provided. In the short form, we know that it is known as the IITS. So first I for instruction, another for information, T for training, S for supervision. So we have to provide, employer has to provide the necessary instruction and training taking into the function and capacities of different categories of workers. Thus, some is the skilled workforce is there, some is the labor is there. They are illiterate. They are not the trained workforce. They are not the trained manpower. So, accordingly, the training and instruction to be providing as per the different categories of the workforce. Point number C, to provide adequate supervision of work practices, and of application in use of occupational safety and health measures. Saying that it is a part of IITS. Earlier we use IIT. Now the S is coming here. S is for supervision. Adequate supervision of the work to be provided. Adequate monitoring of the work practices to be provided. Adequate application and use of the occupational safety and health measure to be provided. Means they have to hire some competent people, or otherwise that person, he also employed sometime also may be competent, or otherwise he has to hire some people who is the competent, who is going to provide the adequate supervision of the work, adequate practices and adequate application and use of the occupational safety and health measures. We come to the point D. The employer has to institute organizational arrangements regarding occupational safety and health and the working environment adapted to the size of the undertaking and the nature of its activities. The employer has to institute means he has to promote, he has to introduce organizational arrangement. As a full organizational, he has to put the arrangement, not only at the only in his office. If the company having wherever the size of the company and wherever the risky activities are happening, he has to make the organizational arrangement. He has to make the arrangement at the organization level regarding occupational safety and health, the working environment adapted of the size of the undertaking and the nature of its activities. If any high risk activity somewhere they are dealing with the oil and gas processing, so he has to take care of the full organization wherever that process is happening. Because due to that process, any toxic gas can be produced. If he spillover is there, it may affect the full area. So it has to consider and he has to institute organizational arrangements. Now we come to the point number E, to provide without any cost to the worker adequate personal protective clothing and equipment which are reasonable necessary when hazard cannot be otherwise prevented or controlled. Yes. In the point E, they are telling the employer has to provide the PPEs without any cost, means free of cost to the worker, which are reasonable necessary when hazard cannot be otherwise prevented or controlled. Here they have mentioned the small changes, that they have mentioned that the when hazard cannot be otherwise prevented or controlled. They are telling if the hazard has been fully controlled, that time it can be there can be a chance of the optional things. Yes, the system is so foolproof is there. So there is no chance that there is no hazard exist. Yes, that time they no need to provide the PP. But he is telling when hazard cannot be otherwise prevented or controlled. If hazard cannot be prevented or controlled, they have to. It is necessary. They have to provide free of cost the PP. They have to provide free of cost. They have to provide to all the workers. Come to the point F. Employer has to ensure that work organization, particularly with respect of hours of work and rest break, hours of work and rest break does not adversely affect occupational safety and health. Employer has to ensure he has to give the hours of work he has to define. As per the like factory act, there are 8 hours of work can be done in a shift day. He cannot force to the labor or to the worker that he has to work 10 hours, 12 hours or two shifts, three shifts continuously. And he has to provide in middle, in between he has to provide the rest break he has to provide. Generally, after every 4 hours, a rest break is provided. Sometimes it may be in the terms of tea break or coffee break. Sometimes it is known as the lunch break. Yes. So it is a mention. Rest break is provided. So depend upon the organization to organization, the rest break timing may be changing, and the hours of work also may be changing. Yes. So it should be in that such a manner. It should not adversely affect occupational safety and health of the worker. So they are giving the full freedom to the organization, but it should be up to that level that it should not impact on the health and safety of the workers. Now we see the point number D, to take all reasonable practicable measure with a view to eliminating excessive physical and mental fatigue. If the work is too manual, like for example, he has to eliminate the excessive physical and mental fatigue. Physical fatigue means suppose the labor is going to take one cement bag of some 80 kg from first floor to fourth floor without any mechanical help, without any lift. They are going manually, they are taking. Yes, so he has to carry some 20 cement bag in 1 hour. So it will be the excessive physical work for him. So he will be tired, he will be exhausted, he will be drained very early. So here they are telling that the employer has to provide wherever possible is there reasonable practical measure is to eliminate the excessive physical. He can provide the simple mechanical trolley. So the worker can lift the item one place to another place. If possible, they can provide the lift for any other mechanical devices. So excessive physical work to be eliminated. Mental fatigue also should not be excessive. Otherwise, it may create the psychological disorder into the human being and may lead to the various disease, psychological disease it may lead. So he has to not force all the work to one or two workers who are preparing the document, who are dealing with the audit, who are doing the inspection, who are following the legal compliance, not only to one person. He has to allocate the work that it should not create a mental fatigue of their worker. So says that to take all reasonable, practicable measures with a view to eliminating excessive physical and mental fatigue. Now we come to the last point, that is the H, to undertake studies and research or otherwise keep abreast of the scientific and technical knowledge necessary to comply with the foregoing clauses. It's telling that the employer has to undertake the studies. He has to study in his workplace, or otherwise he can do some research in his workplace, or otherwise keep abreast. Suppose he is not having the any facilities of doing the study of their health and safety, or he cannot do the research. So he can keep abreast means keep up to date of the scientific and technical knowledge. What are the scientific method, scientific techniques are coming into the market, into the world, and what is the technical knowledge are available necessary to comply with the foregoing clauses. Like for example, one painter is doing the paint by hand on the wall. Since morning to evening, he has to he has to paint some area. So he is doing the painting, and the paint is falling on his head, on his face, on his hand also, on his overall also. So employer has to provide the PPE. So how the technically they can improve? So they can provide the spray painting mechanism to the painter. So this is by adding the technical aspect into his work, he can improve the health and safety at the workplace. Because the now after introducing the spray painting booth or automatic painting machine, the worker will not come across to the paint on his head, on his body, on his hand, on his overall, and he can protect himself. If he going to wear some RPE, respiratory protective equipment, so obviously that from whatever the fumes are going to come, that also can, vapors also coming of the paint vapors. From that vapors also he is going to safeguard himself. So these are the 8 basic responsibilities which has been given in Article 10 of R164. Now we are going to summarize. We have studied the C155 and R164. So there are some 11 responsibilities we have studied. 2 and 3 are repeating in C155 also and R164 also. So we are just going to summarizing all the things. The employer has to provide safe system of work, safe plant and machinery, safe place to work, IITS, information, instruction, training and supervision, PPE, free of cost, personal protective clothing and equipment, free of cost to the all the workers, organizational arrangements like work hours and rest break to be provided, excessive physical and mental fatigue to be eliminated. These are the and up to date with the scientific and technical knowledge to HSC field, health and safety field. So these are the methods, they are the responsibilities of the employer, which we can remember it in a small short form, and we can write all the 8 to 10 responsibilities whenever the question is coming about the employer responsibilities. It's very easy to remember. Just you can remember it. One more time, I will say that SSW, Safe System of Work, which already we know. SPM, Safe Plant and Machinery. SPW, Safe Place to Work. IITS, PPE, Organizational Arrangement, Work Hours and Rest Break, Excessive Physical and Mental Fatigue, up to date with knowledge. Thank you.